Hi, we're back at Hanger Studios and we're on the third part tutorial on how to build a wooden sword and a wooden dagger.
So right now we have already pre-cut some parts for the hilt of the dagger and the hilt of the sword. So we've cut some slides of a paint piece and some wedges to put in between so it can be more stable.
Now, we mentioned before about safety. We're not cutting anything right now, but whenever we're cutting or sanding, we try to put our glasses on. Sometimes I forget to do that, and sometimes we need ear protection too. Okay? Are you ready? Okay, the first thing we're going to need to do is lay it up on the table and put some glue on the flat pieces. What we've done is we cut some flat pieces that'll go here, and then we cut spacers that'll go on each side. So the first thing we're going to do is get a nail and put in the wood to hold it in place while it dries.
So we're going to spread some glue on there so it will stick. There we go. Wood glue is hard to work with.
Hold that for me. I have a hard time getting the glue out. Okay, I need you to hold the sword in place. Stand to the side.
So I'm going to hold the sword in place while he nails it in.
Now we stop nailing because we don't want to go all the way through in our table, so we won't have any problem getting it out. Now we're going to put the glue on the other piece that goes on the opposite side. And we're going to set this, we set it on another piece of wood so when the nail goes through, it will go through it. We've already applied the glue. Okay? We need to pull off a piece of strap. But as you can see, we have our handle for protection now. Now we're going to glue in the blocks. Marcia, hold that piece for me. We need to put a liberal amount of glue on each end. Now these things are kind of hard to get lined up perfect, but once it dries, we can take it over to the sander and we can sand them kind of smooth. You need to get on those things. Okay. Now we got glue on each side, and now we're going to slide these pieces.
We're going to wedge them apart just a little bit, then slide them in.
It goes on the other side. It's a little short. But like I said, we can always cut them off and make them more accurate after we get everything finished. And then we glue this side up real good. That's sticking out a little bit, but we can take the bands and cut that out. Now that's glued up real good, so now...
So I'm going to bring it over to the camera so y'all can see it. We put a nail through it, and then we put some spacers in the center, and then when we get through, we're going to use our bandsaw to cut that piece off and those pieces off. So now I'm going to bring it back to the table.
Okay. Now one of the things we want to do, when I was Carson's age, there was a cabinet shop behind our house, and all of the neighborhood boys, we used to go out there and get stick like this and we'd sword fight. And of course, sooner or later, one of us would get whacked across the hand or the face. So we don't want this real sharp edge on here. We want to kind of sand this so it'll be a little rounder. So what we're going to do, we're going to wedge it right here. We don't want to jiggle it a whole lot while this is drying. But we're just going to take a piece of sandpaper, and it don't take a whole lot to take that edge off. Just kind of keep it at a 45 degree. And feel both sides, Carson, and see the difference, how that feels.
So this side, it feels really good, and then this side is pretty pointy. But the other side, we're gonna actually sharpen it till it gets at a angle where it goes up. But then when we get to the top, we're gonna kind of curve it so it won't like be sharp and cut through on something. Yeah. So this part, it might take a little bit longer, but you can just like, if you have, this is just like a hobby that we're doing, and it doesn't take, it takes about maybe 30 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, right?
Okay, that's enough right there. That feels real good. And I'm not saying if you hit somebody real hard with that, it wouldn't hurt them, but it definitely take the sting out of it. Okay, if you'll lay that one to the side.
So we're gonna lay this one to the side, but out of the video, you can do it or not, but you need to like, you can sand this down till it goes into a beveled edge. I'm gonna set this out so it can dry, and now we're gonna do the same with the dagger.
Take it a little closer.
So the dagger, we've made the handle, it fits perfectly to my hand, and the dagger's pretty long. We did the same thing with the sword, and we took all the nasty stuff off, and now it's really smooth and stuff. But we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to smooth this out, and then we're going to smooth this out. Then out of camera, we're going to do this until it's a bevel.
We'll go ahead and sand this one before we put the handle across it, so that it'll be a little bit easier to do. It's not quite as long, and it won't take near as much work to sand all four corners out. Now, Carson's talking about taking it and cutting it down where it looks more like a sword. And if we do that, more likely what we'll do, we'll just get us a box cutter or a pocket knife that's fairly sharp, and then we'll go back with sandpaper to kind of smooth that out. Okay, he's going to hold this for me. The first thing I want to do is get our little flat piece that we showed y'all earlier, and I'll bring these up a little bit closer and show you how these work. This is the flat piece, and this is the dagger, and it fits like this. But to keep from having a big space, we put a spacer in it like that, and that'll look good once we get it glued and everything's in there. Okay, you want to hold this for me, Carson?
Yes, sir.
Now we're going to put the glue. Tell you what, this time we're going to put it
On the blade.
actually on the blade itself.
This time we're going to put it on the blade itself, so it may be working better than the last time.
Get our nail.
So now we're going to put the nail and the paint stir.
And when he talks about paint stir, just to let you know what we're talking about, this thin piece that we're using, that's all it is a paint stir that I got from the paint store one time.
Yeah,
Hold this.
they're pretty they're 90 cents like a piece. They're really cheap.
We got that done, so now we want to put our blocks in.
Now we're just
Well,
gonna put
let's
some
put
glue.
the piece on the other side.
Yeah,
Turn it over, let me put the glue on that side.
here. So now we put a fair amount of glue on there to put the wood on there. You don't need much to use the wood to stick together. But now we're going to put the other slate on it. Then we're going to put it on another piece so it doesn't go into our table. And
Again, I can't stress enough about safety. Glasses, a lot of times I don't wear them, but when you nail it, sometimes nails pop out. I've known people that's had their eye put out with a nail. I've known people grinding. I myself has got metal grinding without glasses. So safety is a real big issue. Now we got both of the pieces of the paint stirrer in, and see it's starting to look more like a dagger now. Now we're going to put our little spacers in. See if I can show you that now that we get up a little bit closer. You can see that little crack there, and we take these and glue them and slide them in, and it looks better than this side here that doesn't have anything. So now we're going to apply the glue. Carson's going to hold it. We want to put glue on each side, and a liberal amount. We may have to take a scraper blade and clean it later on or sand it, but I know you can get too much glue, but it's better to have a little too much than not enough. Okay, now that's in there.
If it's perfect. I don't really even think we're going to do much sanding with this one. I think once it dries that we're just going to do a little bit. So I'm going to take it back over to him. And he has the other side back to get all the glue on it. And we'll almost be finished. But we're probably going to end the video once this goes in. Then once your glue dries, you can get a nail, and you can hammer the nail all the way in. And when you hammer the nail all the way in, you get a saw and you cut off the rest of the metal, so it will have it will still stay together even more.
Unlike this piece over here that we did, these are not clamping up real good, so we're going to get a couple small clamps and put on this so that it'll dry real good. And once it dries, we can either drive the nail through and cut it off, or we can pull it out. Either way, but I want to get some clamps. Carson will tell you about what we're going to do next.
So next, we are going to clamp the sides so the glue will get more pressure on it and it will help it dry. And so when it dries, we will use the saw to cut off the edges that are not needed.
Okay, you come here and hold this for me. Hold it from both ends.
So here it is.
Okay, now let's get up a little bit closer so they can. I have to get real close. Okay, now you can see right here where it's not really pressured together good. And one thing about glue, if you want it to work good, you got to get a good bite on it. So we're going to take these little metal clamps that I have and just put enough pressure that we see the glue ooze out, which we're seeing. So that means that it's, but before we do anything, we want to make sure it looks good and square with the blade. We've been moving it around a little bit. Now we're going to put one on the other side, just like it. He's going to turn it around where you can see it. And this will set overnight, and where it's glued will be just as strong as the wood itself.
Because the glue will seep into the wood and pull it together.
All right, that looks good, Carson. Now,
in the morning, we're going to drive the nail through, and then we're going to cut the rest of it off.
let me square this up real good for you. I believe that's good, and this will dry probably in about an hour, but if you really want a good set, you really need to let it set overnight. And the glue will set up and tap that in good and tight. Okay.
So, here's the sword.
And can't hardly tell with the clamps, but this is the dagger, what it'll look like here. And we may do a few other things to them, but
we might put some clamps on the sword because
they're holding pretty good. But anyway, this is pretty much it. And this is the end of this tutorial on how to build a wood sword
and
dagger from
Hager Studios. Da, 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 da.